You just texted your feelings to a chatbot at 2 a.m., and it responded with something that actually made sense. Maybe even something that helped. And now you're wondering, does that mean AI is doing therapy? Or did you just stumble onto something that feels helpful but isn't quite what it claims to be? Because more than 1 in 5 Americans have now used an AI tool for emotional support. And most of them weren't doing it because they wanted to replace their therapist. They were doing it because their therapist had a 3-week waitlist or cost $200 a session, or they just needed something right now at midnight when everything felt too heavy to hold alone. Let's be honest about what AI does well here. These tools are available around the clock. They don't judge you. They don't get tired, distracted, or subtly check their phone while you're talking. For people who feel uncomfortable with the vulnerability of talking to another human, which is a significant portion of people who actually need mental health support, that low barrier to entry is genuinely meaningful. Studies on app-based tools like Wobot have shown measurable reductions in anxiety and depression symptoms after just a few weeks of use. That's not nothing. For people with mild symptoms or people who've never had any access to care, that's actually a lot. But here's where the picture gets complicated. Therapy is not just about getting useful information or feeling heard in the moment. It's about a trained human being who can notice the things you're not saying, who can pick up on the slight change in your voice when you talk about your mother, who can sit with silence in a way that holds space for something to surface. AI, at its current state, cannot do any of that. It processes text. It generates responses. It's very good at pattern recognition across enormous amounts of language. But it doesn't have clinical judgment. It can't diagnose. It can't hold a genuine relationship over time. And relationship, as it turns out, is one of the most robust predictors of therapeutic outcomes we have. There's a subtler risk that doesn't get enough attention. When something feels therapeutic, you might stop looking for actual therapy. If an AI app gives you enough relief to get through the day, you might never make that call to a real professional. And for someone dealing with serious depression, trauma, suicidal ideation, or a disorder that requires structured treatment, that delay could matter in ways that are hard to recover from. AI isn't designed to recognize when it's out of its depth. That's not a flaw in the code, it's just an honest limitation of what this technology is. Now the counter-argument is real, and it deserves respect. Mental health care is not equally available to everyone. Cost, geography, cultural stigma, wait lists, insurance complications, these aren't minor inconveniences. For many people, the choice isn't between AI and a therapist. It's between AI and nothing. And nothing for someone in psychological distress is genuinely dangerous. Seen through that lens, a thoughtfully built AI tool that helps someone feel less alone, track their mood, or develop a few coping strategies isn't a fake version of care. It might be the only version of care that was realistically accessible to that person. That matters. So the more useful question isn't whether AI can replace therapy. It can't. But how to use it in a way that actually serves your mental health. Use it as a bridge, not a destination. If you're using an app to practice articulating your thoughts before a therapy session, that's valuable. If you're using it to track mood patterns you can then bring to a professional, that's useful. If you're using it to cope in the hours between sessions, that's legitimate support. The problem comes when AI becomes the whole infrastructure of your mental health care, when it was only ever designed to be a small part of it. And if you're going to use these tools, there are things worth paying attention to. Is the app transparent about what it can and can't do? Does it actively encourage you to seek professional care when the content of your conversation suggests you need it? Is it built on any real clinical evidence, or is it just a chatbot with a calming color palette and a wellness aesthetic? These are not small distinctions. The mental health tech space has exploded with products whose marketing far outpaces their evidence base. Being a thoughtful consumer here is part of taking your mental health seriously. Here's what it comes down to. AI in mental health is not a revolution, and it's not a gimmick. It's a tool, and like any tool, its value depends entirely on whether it's the right one for the job. For mild support, for accessibility, for the gaps that real mental health care still leaves open, it can genuinely help. For the deep, complex, long-term work of healing, it's not built for that. Knowing the difference isn't pessimism. It's how you actually take care of yourself. If this gave you a clearer picture of something you've been wondering about, subscribe, because that's what this channel does every week. And if you're thinking about where AI fits into the broader question of emotional intelligence, the next video goes somewhere interesting.